Welcome to our third call today on a second trial because there were some miscommunication which happens at times. And I'm just a person that has to be on is always present in the moment. And I'm telling you, when things are happening, you got to take a moment. And this is what it is. I'm not ever be able to put a face on just to make things right and just to overcome things, because that's just not what life is about. And so here I am to just introduce you into our third session this week, and the second one today after we've had the conversation with Swati. And so what we're going to talk about, it's the business of self, and here is the title of Expanding Our Horizons, because I wanted to bring in Lisa today to discuss this aspect of what does it mean to expand our horizons and why do we need to be in connection with one another. So let me just get her in. So we can start this conversation. Let's see if it works. And here we are. Well, hello.
Hi there.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. You had a good morning? I mean, you're still in the morning.
Yep.
All right. So you're calling in from Arizona. I know we had some miscommunication or misunderstandings around our time, so apologies on either side. Just had to recollect ourselves, or rather I had to collect myself. So here we are, and I hope all is well. And I just wanted to start off by saying one of the things that I'm truly excited about have you here today, Lisa, is the tremendous input and impact that you've had on me over the past year or so. It's been really like incredible how you have supported me. And I was pointing at this painting earlier because this is like anything that I touch, there is something that you had your hands in some shape or form. And this is why I really love to have this conversation with you and talk about expanding our horizons, because one thing is clear: we would not be where we are if it wasn't without one another. And even if whatever is happening, it's all okay. I want to let you know life is good, and I'm so happy to have you in my life and to be this person in your life, I hope, and to have this conversation with each other around how can we expand. And before we even get into these conversations to have, I really want you to share with us your business that you are profoundly excited and passionate about, that why I want you to be in part of my life in this journey of discovering our inner freedom, and especially the connection to ourselves and therefore connecting to others. So please, Lisa, take it away on what you are all about.
Well, thanks for having me. As you mentioned, I'm in Arizona. My project that we met through was called the Color Affirmation Deck and Life Path Colors. So my work revolves around helping each others discover what their life path color is and how that can empower their lives. And I've developed a deck and a coaching program that incorporates that into my work. I live by the artist's way. I do morning pages. I do art journaling. I do a lot of consulting on creative projects. I was a graphic designer by trade for over 20 years, and now I bring that forward into my creative wellness practice. I write for the local newspaper, and I'm doing more and more personal retreats on the idea of finding peace within through creative process. So the process of art making and the use of color and how that relates to your emotions. There's a plane.
All good. And also please add to what is behind you, because I did, I want to address, even though, Soul Quest retreat is one thing of its own, and yet there is this really important piece for you as well. And I hope you can add something to that.
As to where I'm sitting, so
Yeah.
I'm sitting at the physical location of Soul Quest Retreat as we founded it a year ago, and you can see in the background there's a 40-foot classical labyrinth my husband and I built here. We were married in a labyrinth about 4 years ago now, and when we came to Arizona, it was our mission to create a place of peace in the desert for people to come. And the mountain you see is actually Mica Mountain, spelled Mica. And you can see it from almost anywhere in Tucson. But we get a nice view here right from the center of the labyrinth. And we've had well over 100 people come to walk the labyrinth or participate in my programs in some way since we came last September. And we will be expanding, and there will be updates on that in terms of this location, maybe closer to Phoenix. And I'm scheduling personal retreats right now for people to come and stay with me and have a break from their day-to-day busyness and slow down and find that peace within and do as much art or creative process as they choose. So that's why we're here.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I also want to mention this connection that you just made yourself about nature, colors, and just the whole way of being, right? Like having these personal retreats, and like, what is it that really makes you want to bring this to life? Like, what is there at the core of it that you want to accomplish?
I would say the core of it is, when people come and stay here, they do leave transformed in some way, and they have told me that. There are testimonies on our website about that, and it comes through learning to slow down, learning to walk the labyrinth in a way that serves your soul, maybe learning about different things you can use art in, maybe not a way that someone may know about, but I introduce them to a new process, the life path color, the affirmations, the morning pages, art journaling, how that can support them. And while they may not do a lot of it, the people that come here, I heard more than once last week, we need more of that in the world. We need more of what you do in the world. And it's not so much as the place as the practice and being here and what I can teach them. And it's just it's a big honor to be able to walk with somebody and show them a different way to approach their day-to-day life that can bring them peace, inner peace, and leave, whether it's depression or anxiety or worry, whatever it is they're struggling with, they can come here or work with me virtually, either one, and we can find ways to really cope with life better, because we all have something we're dealing with. And art is healing, and I believe that with my whole heart, and I feel like I can teach people to find a way to make their lives just a little bit better, if not, some people say a whole transformation, which of course is, just amazing.
And so how has your like the practice that you give to people, how has it impacted you, and how did you find these practices to be useful? But also, what made you decide that this is what I want to use to help others?
Well, I think I made that decision as I found it helpful in my own life, because I practice what I preach. I do all these things myself. If I don't do it, I'm not going to ask someone else to do it. And that's the way it is. And so I live this practice every day, and always trying to improve myself. And that's really what it is. It's a form of self-development and growth and how to live a better life. And without it, I wouldn't be who I am. Like, I need to create art. That's just who I am. Not everybody needs to create art, but the process of playing with color does help you be a more whole, fully present person. Balance, peace. People and until you try it, I don't think you can understand the full effect you're going to have. And that's why I do feel passionate, because it is effective. It does work. Over and over, it works.
Yeah, and I just want to get more of like your personal aspects, because I feel like for me, like especially in the conversations we've had yesterday and today, it was like integrating our personal experiences, right? And so I wonder, like, what was, like, if you have something that just pops into your head, obviously I don't want to force anything to like be there, but like, is there maybe something that was really like, oh my god, like this, like you've been a trained artist for as long as you remember, right? I mean, I again, I don't even know. I mean, I know Lisa from the activities and like from the in present being, but I don't know your whole history. Like, where did it begin? Where was this art aspect that flew into your life? Because it sounds like it's been in your life for, I don't want to say forever, but like
Well, I've always loved creating things for as long as I can remember. I mean, as a kid, I'd sit on my grandma's floor in the porch and cut out magazines and make my own books. And I always loved to have a pencil and a piece of paper. Part of my college education, I do have a fine arts degree in art, studio art, from a university in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Augsburg University, used to be called Augsburg College. So that's where I went for my undergrad. And since that time, I worked as a graphic designer commercially. I've done everything from billboards, bus panels to, all kinds of logos, and worked in the commercial advertising sector doing my graphic design. Then I had my own business for many, many years, working with people on everything from book covers to, whatever they needed for their business. But always in the background, I like to create for myself. And over the past 4 years, been able to get back to the more of the fine arts roots, and I'm still working on getting there, finding what my voice is through painting and learning new techniques. I've been given that opportunity, but during my life, with all the things that happened to me, art was always that place that I would go back to for wellness. And because it helped me, I felt compelled to share it with others, especially women. They go through a lot of different changes in their lives, and men too. I've coached men looking for jobs, life changes, whatever the case may be. There's always a way for the art to come in some way, whether it's creating a vision board or creating an affirmation for yourself or playing with color, whatever it is. There's all kinds of outlets that art provides.
And how did it come about that this color affirmation deck that you started us off with really became that focus, right? Because all these other things you just mentioned were really like, now I see as I'm envisioning the color affirmation. Like, I'm going to get it just in a sec because I have a copy here, actually two. And what I really found so fascinating is that all the aspects that you talked about in relationship to the studies that you had, the work that you did, it all comes together in this one deck.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious to really get that sense of like, this is Lisa.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm always curious about things. And during the pandemic, I led a group called the Global Art Cafe. We met every week on Fridays for 2 years. And then during that time, I started a podcast with the same name, the Global Art Cafe. You can still find it on your podcast channels, but I've taken a break since I came to Arizona. And I may be starting it up again. So little insight there. But one of my very first podcast I did, I almost don't want to listen to it, but my very first podcast was with a man named Mark Wentworth, and he is a color expert out of the UK. And we had this wonderful conversation, and he introduced me to Life Path Colors. And he's studied colors and all the ins and outs of it. He's trained, and he's written numerous books on the subject, and he travels all over the world doing retreats. And so we had a few different Zoom calls, just him and I personally, and then did the podcast. But he introduced me to the concept of Life Path Colors. And from there, it was born. I had this curiosity that I couldn't get rid of. And as Raditya knows, the color affirmation deck as it is now went through a few different reiterations. I started out by wanting to, that was the first one. It was called I Am Colorfully Made. a couple years ago, and I designed the whole thing, did all the artwork, created all the affirmations. I got the ISBN and I published it. And then in this last year, since I've been in Arizona, I released the newest edition, which I believe is the best one. Yes, and it comes in a little pretty pouch my mother-in-law made. And it has some cards in there that were not in the first one, and it has some cards are not in this one. But it's 47 cards of affirmations, my artwork, and then on my website you can buy a 47-page guidebook that helps you to use it. But that all started with Mark, and I'm getting back to a space now a couple years later where I feel really good about the deck, the guidebook's in a good place, and I'm going to start offering more and more programs that stem from it. But Mark does a lot of different things that I don't do, and I'm not trained like he is, and he gave me that seed, and I took that seed and I turned it into this as a tool. I have psychologists in Arizona, psychologists in Minnesota, other therapists and art therapists in Colorado who use it. I have decks as far away as Singapore, Hawaii, Canada, and all over the United States. Um, it's just very humbling, and it's really great to see people using it. I keep hearing stories of how different people use it in different ways with their kids and learning the affirmations, and at the kitchen table or the dinner table, or with their spouse, and the stories that I hear. It's just really fulfilling to know that it's making an impact and changing lives for the better. And that's why I do it. That's why I keep going.
Yeah, and I can hear and feel this passion inside of you for just this ease and sense of peace that it can create, that when we are in this crazy world that we're currently even living in, right, that it can bring us back to ourselves. And I think it's like, this morning the conversation was about connecting to ourselves, right? And now today, or rather in our conversation, I titled it Expanding Our Horizons. And I'm seeing, like, especially what you are bringing in, right, is the capacity of expanding by integrating other modules, other ways of connecting to ourselves, because that's at the end, at the core, what you really are wanting people to do is to connect to themselves so that they can connect with more joy with other people, so it doesn't have this impact where I don't want to be around people, I want to be just by myself. And sometimes we do want those times, and then there are other times where we do want to connect with one another. And I think that's really what I found necessary to also bring into here, that I wanted to also address in these relationships and these people that I'm bringing on these different calls, including yourself, right? That there are these relationships that we're building that are necessary to expand our horizons. We can get all the different tools, and they are demonstrating one part that we can connect, which is ourselves. And then we need to open up and connect with other people as well. And I just have pulled some cards from your initial deck. And the first card I had was green. I was like, oh, this is like the nature we were talking about. Then a funny thing that obviously Lisa and I know about what this color means to us is orange, which is my life path color, which is hilarious. There's a whole bunch of story that Lisa could talk about. And then the card that I got with an affirmation on it, because I usually, with this first deck, there's colors and then there's affirmations. I pull until I have one with an affirmation. That's how I do it. So the one affirmation I did get today was, I am fearless. And this is not just for me. This is for everyone. And look, oh, it's matching my scarf. And it says, I am creating the life of my dreams. And this is what we want people to do, is to create their lives of their dreams, even if it means, as we talked about yesterday, having a 9 to 5. It's really happening inside of us. It's not necessarily about what the things are that we are doing outside of ourselves. And is there anything that you can add to this sentiment of like the internal world to be more of our significance versus the external world? Or maybe you have a different aspect of it. That's fine too.
No. I think the thing that keeps coming up for me, especially with what's happening in my own life, um, is having that peace within yourself, knowing yourself is going to help you the most. And all the tools that you, Rhodesia, teach and I am teaching, different ways to really slow down and tap into what it is that matters most to you. And when you know who you are, the outside things can't really rattle you the way that maybe they could before you knew yourself so well, because you're not confused by things that are external, things that happen not on purpose, or they show up at your door and they aren't what you're used to dealing with, or you're in a work situation. You just learn to be able to handle life in a more peace-filled way, and you can't do that without understanding that. And do the cards help? I think so. I have people that do struggle with different things, and they draw a card every day, and they send me the card every day and let me know. And I love that, by the way, because it tells me that it means something to them, and like they're obviously getting something out of it. People need to be affirmed, and that's why this deck was created. And that's where it can help and support people. But yeah, knowing yourself, just um, getting to that place where you really feel at peace with, I'm doing what I'm meant to do. And that, I think that was the purpose of these chats, was how do we get to that point where we understand our purpose or your life path. All these different people that you're talking to, I think, offer those different perspectives in different ways. We're all different. Everybody's unique. And that's what I think helps create a well-balanced person personally, is when we do have different insights from very different perspectives. It can help us decide, what does it mean for us? What is the what are our core values, and what matters to me? And then nothing else. You don't have to, I mean, you should care, right? But like, then the other things don't really matter, because you know what matters to you and you are on your right life path. And that's the goal, at least for me.
Yeah, and I think you're bringing up a really important point, is that we can have an impact on our immediate action, our personal actions towards our lives, our perspectives, point of views, or whatever not. And it's much more difficult, if even impossible, to change the external world, right? Like, we can't have usually a big impact on getting something that we're wanting. And one thing I wanted to bring in here towards the end, because as you were part of this whole session creation last Friday, which this is how it happens, right? Things just sometimes happen very quickly. Sometimes it takes some time, but this particular thing, these sessions were just happening extremely quickly. I mean, the idea was already there, but the last Friday was really when it all came together. And I had a moment with Lisa where I was pulling a card, and the card that I pulled after talking a bunch about the ideas that I had is exchanging gifts. And just in this earlier conversation with Swati, we did talk about giving and receiving, which made me think about the card that we pulled. It was pink, just in case that means something to someone who knows about their life path color. Maybe pink is your color, or rose, I should say. Yes?
So rose, the key word for that color is humanitarian.
Oh my God! Yeah. Even better.
Yeah.
You make it all even better. See, so me just having pink is just one thing. Expanding horizon to get an additional input on what that pink stands for creates a whole nother level of where we can go from here. We're not going to go into humanitarian just right now, but this just tells me we have to have more conversations and integrate those colors into our lives. And what really fascinated me about this exchanging gifts, and why all the people that I'm inviting this and into these conversations, is that we're all having something to give as well as to receive. This is what expands our horizon. It's the same thing when we're seeing a sunset and then there's this crazy cloud coming in. And if you are not following Lisa on Facebook, you must. Because if you want to see different kind of scenes with similar like her background, as she was explaining at the beginning, you will see a facet of different kind of ways that nature can look like. And you can do it for yourself. Pick one place that you can see the sunset or the sunrise or whatever it is, and take a picture or just observe it every single day, and notice how that horizon is changing every single time. Oh, there's
Rose quartz.
Oh, there you go. So we're closing this cycle. So what can you add to this sentiment of exchanging gifts, giving and receiving, that you are sensing through the work that you do, through the people that you meet, through anything that comes to mind?
Well, giving and receiving, I would say just be mindful if somebody's trying to give you a gift and you choose not to receive it, how would you feel? And so I think that is the key thing, giving and receiving. We're our DNA is made to give and receive. And I know I have challenges with how I receive sometimes, like, do you say thank you? How gracious are you? You know, when somebody says, oh, that's beautiful, don't say, oh, well. You say, no, really say thank you and genuinely accept the compliment, accept that, receive the compliment that was given, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes things happen in life, good or bad, and how we react to that is giving and receiving the life that's coming at us. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really important to really be mindful of that. And there needs to be a balance, I think. Giving, but we also need to receive, and filling our cups, and so that we can be present for other people. But it is like, here's my little statement. It is a gift to receive. So when you receive something, it is a gift back to the person giving, or whatever the case may be. So that would be what I do believe, that it is a gift to receive from somebody. And when you don't receive something someone is trying to give you, whether it's information or a meal or whatever that is, that's doing a disservice to your relationship with that other party. And you just have to be mindful, I think. So that's the big thing. It is a gift to receive, I would say. Long way around.
No, I completely agree, because sometimes we feel like if we say no to receiving help, for example, that we're actually doing them a favor because we're not making them do something. But we're forgetting that the sentiment of giving is for you to receive, because otherwise it's resistance. It's pushing you away. It's technically telling you, like, no, thank you. I don't want you part of this exchange, right? And I think one other thing that I found just significant to what you said is that like, it's both, actually. Both is receiving, because if I'm receiving a compliment and I'm saying thank you, I'm actually, you are receiving something in return, right? But if I'm saying, you say like, oh, don't worry about it, it's nothing, you're not getting anything in return. All you're getting is rejection. And it kind of feels like, what am I doing this for? I can already feel it just when you explained it before, and when I said it just now, it feels like a pushback. It's like, go away, right? But I want people to feel like, no, I want to come in. I want to come in, right? And so how do we gauge this practice of receiving if that's not something that comes easy? How can we get more accustomed to that? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think it brings up other things that would be like longer conversations with coaching, is like, of course, you keep in mind boundaries and self-limiting beliefs. All these things can play into what is coming at you, because sometimes somebody wants to give you something, it may not be a good decision to receive it. So that's a whole other thing. But that aside, being open-minded and accepting somebody's genuine gift of whatever it is usually is a good thing. You know, it does give something to that person. I know when for myself, if I share some information, and it's received well, again, you can hear it in the language. It's received well, that brings satisfaction to me. And that's it.
Yeah, and I think you're also pointing at how we, like the mindfulness part of it is really be more conscious of the words we speak, because yes, we want to set boundaries, which includes a certain aspect of no, but we can also say no in a different way in not saying no, right? And so thank you, I find always a super helpful one, because it doesn't say no and it doesn't say yes. It just says, I received. And whatever you do with that after, or whatever you're following after, is up to someone else. And yeah, I just wonder if there's anything else that you found necessary to mention, either anything that has to do with your practice, but just with our conversation, where you feel like, okay, this is something I want people to take away from today.
Well, in terms of my work, I would say go grab a pen or pencil and doodle away, or listen to some music that makes you smile. Do something that brings a smile to your face, and that's what it's all about. Slow down and take a moment away from your busy life, and maybe try some art and see how it feels. That's what I bring to the table. And you may say I'm really not creative. It really doesn't matter. Raditya knows. We have this conversation a lot, because you only grow through what you don't know. And so keep pressing on, try new things. It will better your life regardless of what it is.
I mean, this just makes me say that what you just said is just perfect, because it's like you expand your horizons by focusing on the things you don't know, right? Yeah. That's kind of, I mean, I have to go back into the recording and what exactly you said, because that's a quote you should be repeating all the time. But it's something around what you said is like the only way to know, like to get into, it's like what you don't know. Oh, to grow. The only way to grow is when you get into something you don't know. Something about that. But I'll get that quote to you. It was a great one.
We'll post that.
I'm just going to focus on something else. But I want to say, before we end here, I pulled another card. Only one I had to take this time to get an affirmation. And guess what the color is?
It's rose.
It's rose. And it says, I am caring. I nurture my creative side as much as my practical side. I mean, that's Lisa, great. Didn't you just say this? You just said this. And this is how we're going to end today's conversation with Lisa. I am telling you once again, as I said it with Eva, as I said it with Swati, this is not the last conversation that we're having with Lisa, because there is so much more. We just touched on the surface on not only the things that she has to offer, but just how else we can expand our horizons on a daily basis with extremely simple things. Like Lisa said, grab a pen and paper. Everyone has a pen and paper. And if you don't have one, go to a bank. They have plenty of pens, and I'm sure they have a little pamphlet or something you can write something on. So off you go. And Lisa, thank you so much for making yourself over here and sharing with us all that you know. Not all, but a lot of that you know.
That would take a long time.
Or maybe
a minute or two. Sorry I was late.
No worries.
Life happens.
It happens. I'm all okay with this. I'm happy we got to meet and it all worked out in the end. And thanks again for being here. Love you.